If we attain to change Chloe's parents from the inside out, then it also would be possible with my parents. Something bestows me with the feeling that some just need to be remembered of love. What it feels like, maybe also what it looks like, what it sounds like, and what it tastes like. But first and foremost, that it exists, and that it is not such a myth or legend only some people are meant to experience. Truthfully, it is something anyone can experience, if they truly dedicate themselves to it. Just like Chloe and I dedicated ourselves to each other within some minutes of silence. Only after some time I came up with the effort to really show her my room. Or better, the things that were a little bit hidden. I mean that there was a cupboard standing right on the opposite side of my bed where we were sitting on was blatant, but that I kept the document of my hospital release under my pillow was a rather well-kept secret until then. I did that because I wanted to remember the date on which I gained the certainty that I found someone with whom I wanted to be, and that my release was not the end, but the beginning. If I veered off course for whatever reason, I would have this circumstance at hand to return to. This shift in location, namely, was what brought us to the next level. While we only thought about exploring the world inside the hospital, we were now talking about it instead, seeing that things had changed so much over the past days. Anyway, after we had finished enthusing about this extraordinary strategy of mine, we explored my room a little bit more, resulting in the statement of hers, according to which it was quite a neat, comfortable place. No need to mention that it was a different world compared to her accommodation, but in our case it was not important where. In this regard, the coming Monday was going to turn the scale, as then the path for our future would be paved, with the outcome of one shared path or two separated ones. No need to tell what I preferred more, but either way, I had to live with it, acquiescing that true love can sometimes be the white pigeon you release into the sky. Because after all, when you love someone truly, you don't love to possess them, but rather love them to be happy, even if the paths diverge for some time. In most cases, the paths converge afterwards, but in some, for instance in mine, it was more than obscure. There was a volcano, a disease, and whatever destiny has prepared for me beyond that, all taking influence on the equation for figuring out the probability as to how our story continued. However, slowly but surely the clock inclined toward the 11 p.m. mark, which meant for us to decide on how the evening ended. There was namely the opportunity to just stay here together, which was simultaneously the easiest one, but on the other side, both of us still had some sort of unfinished business. In her case, I only assumed that it had something to do with the journey, because I didn't know what she already had done for it. In fact, it would be the first time traveling such a distance, so I had no clue as to how such a preparation was ought to occur. I mean, a suitcase was the only thing I had in my mind as regards preparation, completely disregarding that there were also many other relevant topics and issues you have to consider when you are going on such a trip. Probably I didn't ruminate about those yet, because the actual journey was as yet highly theoretical for me. I decided to care about that when I had the 1 or the 0, green light or red light. However, for now I could only wait until Monday and make the best out of the current situation. There was namely still a rectification between me and my parents happening in between, which was our main occasion after all, to temporarily go separate ways. We were both of the opinion that it was going to be a conversation about the past, in which she was not anywhere near to me yet. For she was an element of the present, or rather, not one of the past. We agreed on handling it that way in the end. But despite that, she assured me support and wished me that everything may turn out to be fine. As she dialed the number to reach her parents for picking her up, she imbued me with motivation and confidence by alluding that everything between us worked out so far, so why not that as well? As a result, I completely forgot my intended offer to drive her home, while agreeing that she was right. I didn't know what caused it, but especially throughout the recent past I had a feeling of something really supporting me. Oftentimes, in the form of subtle signs only, random circumstances, but seen in a bigger context it was uncanny, not gonna lie. To come up with examples, imagine a green wave of traffic lights just emerging in the moment I was approaching. This itself may not be too compelling, but when it happens 5 times successively, on 3 days in a row, then something weird is going on. I most likely wouldn't even have noticed when it had not been standing entirely in contrast to what I was familiar with. Before, I experienced namely exactly the opposite. Traffic lights trolling me, my car causing just as much trouble as a little child. Just like the child whinges about something it needs, my car presented me lights I didn't even know the meaning of. Even this changed for no apparent reason, as they all left one after another. My dad, who coped quite well with cars, even looked at it and found nothing out of the ordinary. Turns out, the car seemed to have healed itself. Of course, it could break down at any moment, but from my layman's point of view, it still purred like a cat. But after all, it was only one of those inexplicable incidents really amazing me. Anyway, as we were enjoying the last moments together, she comforted me once again and furthermore asked whether I could come over on Monday, just to discuss how to handle the situation further. She accentuated thereby that it didn't matter what would happen. There were plans for everything. What exactly she meant I couldn't pursue, because she harshly interrupted my approach by claiming that her parents arrived. As a consequence, I thanked her one last time for helping me with the situation with my parents, after which I accompanied her to the door. When we had arrived on ground floor, I saw out of the corner of my eye that my parents were still sitting in the kitchen. Although Chloe said goodbye, they were not really responding. I investigated closer and presumed that it likely had something to do with the humming noise. Until now I presumed that it was simply the washing machine doing its job, but when I joined them for a second, I saw 2 bright xenon headlights illuminating the streets. As I connected the threads, I could also answer my question related to how Chloe was able to tell that her parents arrived. The answer: because he could hear their car, which turned out to not be the washer, when it was some 5 blocks away. Besides, doing the laundry half an hour before midnight? Yeah, not really. However, after the realization as to what was going on, I approached Chloe one last time to say goodbye. A real goodbye. Not such a superficial "see you then." Since my parents were distracted anyway, I didn't cause any disruption while kissing her goodbye, a little bit emotionally. She stroked my cheek and repeated her statement from before, after which she took her jacket and slowly went out the door. The car was still standing there waiting for her to enter, as I witnessed when I went over to my parents, gazing with them outside. We were probably sitting there like 3 meerkats behind a tree trunk, what should have looked quite funny from the outside. But disregarding that zoological comparison, we were quite amazed by the scenario, albeit out of different occasions. I was because of Chloe, obviously. My mother probably due to the sensation itself, and my dad, as he explicitly expressed, because of the car that was slowly accelerating away. When we could hear the exhaust rumbling, he shouted out his excitement. "A Bentley, Aaron. What's going on?" Not really caring about the car brand. I had a car for the sake of arriving somewhere effortlessly, and not due to the bragging aspect. I smiled at him and recalled that they could not have known yet who she actually was and where she came from. Yeah, she looked kind of different right away, but with some effort anyone could kind of cheat on their appearance in order to get others to believe that they were wealthy. The corresponding clothes or makeup in case of a female are also quite procurable and affordable in most cases. Because in the end, all it takes to shift the price from 200 to 2000 currency units is a little label where a certain name is imprinted on. But referring to vehicles, the opportunity to trick others are quite limited. I mean, when I put a Ferrari emblem on my BMW, it would be quite obvious that I'm either giddy or deluded. The utmost would be to add a M label on the back, saying that I drove an M3. But be it cars or clothes, Those tricks can be easily disentangled when you encounter someone who has a certain level of expertise. Clothes, the smaller matter in comparison, only give more opportunity to camouflage real from fake, for those for whom it is necessary, of course. Anyway, that Chloe and what I felt for her was real on every level should have been clarified in the meantime, also for my parents. So overall, I really saw progress incoming, albeit only gradually. First steps would occur at the earliest on Sunday, when whatever they wanted to catch up with me would be spoken out. Regarding this, I decided to stay open-minded and positive, but beforehand to go to sleep, as it had been a highly draining Saturday after all. So while my parents occupied their chairs again, I approached for confirming the deal regarding next day, before I told them about my intention to go to sleep. Maybe the uncertainty until then granted them a sleepless night, but better one last night of turbulence than a creeping, somber shadow always making them fret on a deeper level. Because that was my intention, to resolve every doubt, every thought interfering with harmony. Really, every single one of them. Unlike last time, when I received my bill not much later, being way costlier than expected. However, they eventually affirmed my intention, and as a consequence, I made my way to my room, where I enthused a little bit further about the time with Chloe that evening. Even while I was still in the process of doing so, I lost my consciousness and drifted into sleep. Sleep I needed, because I had to come up with recharged batteries for whatever challenge needed to be surmounted next.